Every year, Pixel buyers, we deal with the same problems that were there the year before. And every year, Google gets on stage in August and tells us how revolutionary everything is. But the complaints don't go away. Google makes some of the best software on any phone, period. The camera processing, the AI features, and the clean Android experience. Nobody is debating that. But software alone is not enough when the same hardware problems keep showing up on a phone that cost over 1,000 USD. The Pixel 11 is coming out in August, so here are 5 things Google needs to fix before then, starting with the performance. Tensor gets a lot of hate online, and honestly, some of it is kind of unfair. For the stuff most people actually do, like scrolling, switching apps, watching videos, replying to messages, the Pixel 10 handles it just fine. Now the problem shows up the moment you kind of push it to its limit. Gaming, sustained workloads, anything that keeps the processor running hard for more than a few minutes. That is where Tensor falls behind, and falls behind very badly. Phones at the same price point from Samsung or even the OnePlus, it runs circles around these scenarios. Now the Pixel 10 Pro is a $1,000 phone that cannot keep pace with chips that were considered flagships 2 years ago. And the heat is its own conversation. Thermal throttling, where the phone slows itself down to stop from overheating, has been a documented issue across multiple Tensor generations. So over time, it gets slower the longer it's under load. And what makes this worse is that Google has been promising improvements every single year and every single generation. Tensor G5 was supposed to close that gap. It didn't really do it. Now the Tensor G6 is built on TSMC's 2nm processor, which is a different tier of manufacturing. That could actually change things this year. There is real reason to believe the efficiency story is different with the Tensor G6. But the Pixel community has heard this before, and until August, that is all there is. Hope. Now the performance frustrates the power users, the camera, it frustrates everyone else, because that is the whole reason people buy a Pixel. So here is where things get a little uncomfortable, because the Pixel's camera is supposed to be the whole pitch of the entire smartphone. Pictures, don't get me wrong, are still good. Computational photography is still up there, night images, and of course, portrait mode. Google is still holding its own when it comes to all of those things. And for most people buying a smartphone camera, those results are more than good enough. Now, that is not what this whole section is about. Video is a different conversation, and it's one that Google has been losing for the last few years. Now, the Pixel 10 came with a camera API bug that caused jitters and stuttering when switching lenses during the video recording. A bug in a flagship camera app on a phone that cost over 1,000 USD. Beyond bugs, the bigger issue is that Google's video capabilities have not kept pace with where the market is going. Creators want log footage. I want logged footage. The iPhone has it, Samsung has it, and several other Android flagships have it. It is what separates footage that looks like a phone video from footage that actually holds up when you bring it into an editing timeline. Now, Google, on the other hand, has been shipping features like Video Boost and calling it innovation, while leaving that gap completely untouched. And then there is the camera app opening. On some Pixel models, this has been a complaint going back up to 3 generations. Users report lag when launching the camera, there's a delay before the viewfinder is actually ready to shoot, and on a phone that markets itself around computational photography, that first few seconds matter. You either get the shot or you don't. The camera experience is still the main reason most people buy a Pixel, and Google, they have to treat it that way throughout the whole experience, and not just pictures they show on the launch event. And speaking of things that don't match the experience Google promises at launch, let's talk about the battery, because this one, I'm annoyed. Okay, Google went into the Pixel 10 launch promising 30+ hours of battery life, and with my experience and the experience of other people, that didn't exactly happen. As a Pixel 10 Pro XL user, this is my daily driver. There are battery inconsistencies on a day-to-day basis. One day, everything is fine. On another day, it's about 55% before it's even 12 p.m. with no obvious reasons, of course. I don't exactly have some heavy apps that are running in the background. There is no change in my usage pattern. It's just an unpredictable drain that you cannot plan around. And that inconsistency is actually the harder problem to fix. Now, a phone with average battery life is something you can work with. You know what you're getting, you can charge it accordingly. A phone that randomly drains while sitting on your desk or loses 30% overnight while doing absolutely nothing is a trust problem. And that is the kind of thing that makes people switch brands and not come back. And this goes back further than the Pixel 10. Through the Pixel 6 and the 7 era, overheating and battery drain complaints showed up on Google's own support forums and across Reddit in waves after nearly every monthly update. Not because users were using this phone differently, but because the updates themselves were introducing regression. Google would fix one thing and quietly break another. Now the Pixel 11 is supposed to benefit from the efficiency gains in Tensor G6, but Google needs to fix how its update pipeline has historically handled battery life, because shipping a software fix that tanks the battery life in the process is not progress. 1 to 2 days, even 3 days of use per charge is now a real benchmark in this category. The OnePlus 15 comes to mind when I think about it. Now Google is still playing catch up on battery while other brands are lapping them, and when you factor in that the Pixel's whole identity is built around capturing moments, running out of storage before you run out of the day is the next thing that will let you down. Okay, this one is pretty straightforward, and there really isn't any good defense that I can think of, because when you look at Apple, for example, they looked at the 128 gigs on their iPhones and publicly said it was no longer sufficient for all their phones. When Apple, a company that held onto 64 gig storage options for years, longer than any other brand for that matter, decides that they needed to move up when it comes to their storage, the rest of the industry will take note. Google, apparently they didn't take note, because the Pixel 10 launched with 128 gig of base storage in 2025. And if the Pixel does the same thing, that is a decision Google is making twice, and at this point, there really isn't any excuse. On a phone with AI features that generate images, create summaries, and store media directly on the device, on a phone capable of recording a large 4K video file for users who have been told that the best smartphone cameras is the one in your pocket, and then you give them, 128 gig? I don't know, doesn't make any sense. I mean, think about it. A single hour of 4K video can take up to 24 to 30 gigs of storage. Google Photos, once your safety net for this exact problem, is no longer free. So you are paying flagship prices for a phone that runs out of memory very quick and backs itself into a corner where you have to constantly manage your storage while at the same time trying to use your phone. It's not exactly really fun. And here's the thing though, prices are almost certainly to go up regardless. Now the global RAM and SSD shortage has been pushing component costs across the entire industry, and Google is not immune to that. Now the question is whether Google uses that price to actually fix the storage problem or just pocket the difference. One of those two moves will build trust and the other will lose it. Okay, this is the one that ties everything together, and it has been building for a while now. There was a time when buying a Pixel phone was a smart financial decision. Back in the Nexus era and even the early Pixel years, you were getting close to flagship quality hardware at the price that made other phone buyers feel like they overpaid. The Pixel 10 Pro is priced directly alongside the iPhone 17 Pro and the Galaxy S26 Plus. That is the competitive set that Google has chosen. And at that price, the comparison is very brutal. Qualcomm chips are running faster benchmarks than Tensor. Tensor is not even close to the Apple Silicon in raw performance. The iPhone video is a full category above what Google ships. And the Pixel storage problem, as we've just discovered or just covered, is still behind where it should be. Now what the Pixel wins on is the software, the AI features, call screening, the Android build, the 7 years of software updates. But they are increasingly the only advantages, and a software story alone is a hard sell when the hardware is still far behind at this price point. And the Pixel community has been raising this every single year since the Pixel 6. The price went up faster than the hardware did, and the people who are the most frustrated are not random internet critics. They are the ones who bought it early, stayed loyal throughout the buggy releases, and kept coming back because they believed that Google was building towards something that was revolutionary. If the Pixel 11 and the 11 Pro arrive in August at the same price point as the Pixel 10, and the performance gap is still there, the battery is still inconsistent, and the storage floor is still being debated that the value case gets very thin, at some point, thin becomes very transparent. Google by any means is not building bad phones. The software is really good, the AI integration is ahead of almost everyone, the Android experience on a Pixel is the cleanest version of Android you can get right now, and that counts for something. But the Pixel 11 has a real opportunity in August that the last 2 or 3 generations have missed. The hardware story on paper looks more credible than it has in the last few years. If Google can deliver even on 3 out of the 5 things that I just said today, then I think it'll be a different case by the end of 2026. We're going to be covering the Pixel 11 launch right here on Android Authority when August comes, so subscribe if you want to be the first to see that. And if you want to see how Google saves Siri, click right here. And if you want to see the 7 smartphone trends that need to die in 2026, click right here.